What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Football Boot Hour. We are joined this week by a very special guest, LJ. And the reason LJ is here is because we are looking to discuss his article that he recently wrote for 442 around laceless boots. He had a far more eloquent title. We are just simply asking the question, are they dead? So we will, of course, get into that. But first things first, follow the procedure. Let's talk about what we have been wearing this week. What have we been rocking? What reviews have we got coming up as I knock my mic and probably make a lot of noise? LJ, welcome to the podcast again. It is lovely to have you back, as always. And please let us know what you've been up to, what you've been wearing. Got any little stories for us, things that have been going on?
Thank you for inviting me also. What I've been wearing, last time I played, I was on Wednesday, and I wore the Power Surge pack of the tequila, the new kind of the blue colorway.
Yeah, so nice.
And I think probably the best colorway so far of that boot.
Yeah, that's really good.
Reviews-wise, I have one coming soon, next couple of weeks, I think, for the Kipster CLR.
Nice.
I wore a few times, and then there we go. That's the one. And probably soon also for the Scudetto, the Sokito Scudetto.
Yes.
That's
beautiful.
Right as well. A good boot. So, yeah.
Nice. We look forward to that. We look forward to both of those,
definitely.
as always. Andrew, what are you at? I realize you're a little bit broken at the moment with your knee.
Yeah, my knee's all banged up.
So what is going on aside from just looking at lots of pretty boots?
Well, I did manage to get some sessions in these.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah, they're superb.
Did those come out like in the UK? I don't think they did.
No. And I've heard through some sources that even like the people at ProDirect hadn't seen these. And like J-Mike hadn't seen these. So I'm not even sure if they're releasing over there. They've released in Japan, obviously, in Thailand, Singapore, and Malaysia, and that's it.
That's mad.
So very limited release.
Yeah, I've had a few people ask me about them, and I've kind of been like, ask Andrew. But the people who are asking me about them are people who would be like, they would know people somewhere in like ProDirect or Unisport or things like that, and they're coming to me because I reposted your reel, being like, so how do I get these? I'm like, dude, I don't think you do, but go and ask Andrew.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these are absolutely superb. So
nice.
Yeah, well, I think I've gotten enough sessions in these to justify doing the review. I mean, basically, it's a remake from 2002, but not just that. It's the exact same shoe except different colorway that they launched in 2018 and then again in like 2021. So
you already know the shoe pretty well.
Yeah, I've worn this shoe a lot. Like I've got a pair downstairs that just sits there just in case of pickup and stuff.
Nice.
And then I also finally took a while, but I finally got these in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So they're a bit the upper feels slightly different than the gold one. It's a little bit.
I wish you say that because now I'm gonna justify.
They're really good, man. They're really good. The subtle chameleon touches on this is really well done. I do like that they've gone for a white base this time instead of doing all chameleon. To kind of set it apart from. Obviously, they did the chameleon earlier this year, but this is really tastefully and well executed colorway.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful colorway. It seems even nicer in hand. I've had the Pro and the League version of those in hand. I haven't seen the Elite, and I need to get the Pro and the League in to review because they're so good. Like the upper is amazing on them. I picked up the League and I was like, what? How?
Yeah.
I don't understand. So that's like a must review along with my 800 other reviews that need doing. But anyway. So for me this week, funny that LJ mentions them. I have the old CLR. That's going to be. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to test my new mute button because I'm going to sneeze. No, I'm not. I'm just going to continue on. So I have recently kind of finished testing these, recorded the review, all that kind of stuff. So see, got it
There
all
it
wrong.
is.
I knew it was coming. Sorry, everybody. So yeah, the review should be out on Monday, I think,
Nice.
of these. So that is dropping, and then again, similar to LJ, my next review after that of a boot will probably be the Scudetta as
Scudetta.
well. So I've already done a Scudetta like unboxing first impression, but this will be like my, I've been wearing the Scudetta for a month. How actually are they under pressure, shall we say? We'll jump over to the live stream for a second. Say hey to Proper Boots. Sebastian Yawas, who says Vamos. Footloose Boots is in the house as well, as is Chris's Footy Kicks and Chris Pottle and the Boot Zone, all regular attendees of the podcast. We appreciate you guys. Ashley Wright has a question about ASICS sizing. Ashley Wright, by all means, put it in the chat. We will get to it at some point during the podcast. Any questions you have, do put down in the chat. And Paul Gomez absolutely agrees. He thinks the Messis are beautiful, and we have to agree with that. They are gorgeous. Speaking of gorgeous boots, we should rank this week's new releases. And I suppose the best place to start is with the Bellingham Predators that released today. I think the first thing to say is, aside from the fact that they released today and they look very nice, the black and gold, we know they've been coming for a while, is the fact that as of right now, which is, a solid, I don't know, 15, 16 hours after they released, you can still pretty much buy them in most places in all sizes. There's a few exceptions. I heard you can't get them in Australia. I think you said they sold out in Japan as well, Andrew.
They were going in Japan immediately.
Yeah, but UK, Europe, like I could go on and buy a pair in every single size right now if I wanted to. They are still readily available. So the limited option of these, they're probably not that limited, but let's not complain about that. It's nice that everybody who wants to be able to get these can just go out, pick them up. It's a great looking colorway. So pluses on that. I'll go straight ahead. I think they're good. I don't think they're great. And the only reason for that is because I think that Adidas have been a little lazy with some of their design work. This is still very much the Night Spark pack, I think was what it's called. And they've added a bit more gold to it. I would have liked to have seen something a little more inventive, something a little bit different for Bellingham. But that doesn't stop them being a nice looking football boot. The gold sole plate looks great, etc. But just good for me, but lovely to see that anybody who wants a pair can go out and get a pair, albeit 11 months after the Predator released and everyone's been scrambling to get them. So I don't know whether it's colorway fatigue. I don't know whether it's just pure numbers. Probably a little bit of both. But LJ, what are your thoughts on both the availability and the colorway itself? What would you rank it?
Availability, obviously, like you say, it's good. I'm honestly not super duper surprised. Like, I kind of half expected it to be one that wasn't super hard to get in comparison with even some of the earlier general release colorways of the model. It looks really good. It does look really good. Obviously, there's the fact that it's similar to I can't remember the name of the Dark Straw. What was the name of the color?
Dark Spark, I think, something like that. Yeah.
And I guess that now explains why there wasn't more gold on that, because obviously they needed to make. And it's almost like a Pokemon evolution where you have the fully blacked out, the one with a little bit more gold on it, and then this one. In isolation, it's a great looking boot, but then obviously when you put it in the context of the colorways before, like, it kind of takes away a little bit from it. But it does look really good, even with the Bellingham's insignia on one of the tongue. It looks very, very good. To be honest, it does. So, what's above good? Is there only one above good?
Great is above good.
We put it in good. We won't put it in great. We'll put it in good.
Okay. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, same thing. They did sell out here immediately. They sold out, so they released it at 5 p.m. 5:01, they were gone. At 5:03, somebody managed to flip the pair for twice the retail already. So, yeah, we haven't gotten a lot of the tongue preds. I'd argue that if Adidas could have cut down on some of the colorways, and then kind of done the same release schedule for the tongue preds they did here for everywhere else, they wouldn't be having problems with sell-through at all.
Yeah.
So, but they're good. Again, I think we would have liked them a lot better if that Dark Spark pack hadn't come out. So,
I absolutely agree. I think
can't
there's
do anything above good.
Yeah, Paul Gomez says here as well. I think this is definitely something that will have been a case. Is maybe everyone that wanted the Preds already scrambled and settled for another colorway. So that is definitely possible. I think that some people, they're not like us. They're not going to go and buy like 100 colorways of the same damn boot. So they've just eventually gone, I can get this one. This'll do. I'll buy this one. So they're not going to go out and buy yet another boot. And these are obviously at a premium as well, aren't they? They're not. They're slightly more expensive than the regular ones because they're Bellingham. So that's the way it is. But I think good is probably a fair place to put them, to be honest. Before we just shuffle along into the main topic, let's just answer Ashley Wright's question down here. I think that's a good time to do it. He says, so I have a pair of Mizuno Alpha Japan. Should I go the same size in the Asics X-Fly 5? Andrew, you are probably the best person to answer this question.
It depends if you already went half size down for the Alpha. If you didn't go half size down for the Alpha, you need to go half size down for the X-Fly 5. If you did go half size down for the Alpha, get the same size in the X-Fly 5.
Yeah, it's a really difficult comparison for me because I have two pairs of X-Fly 5 in two different sizes, and I'm still not sure which size I like the most. Whether I want the US 8 or the US 7.5, I don't know which one suits me better. The US 7.5 might be slightly too tight, but I feel like I might be able to break it in or something. I don't know. But yeah, Andrew's description was absolutely the best way to do that. I'm glad you answered that. Thank you very much.
You were about to skip over doing the Nike pack for this week.
Oh, I was. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, anyway, the Nike pack. So we have the Nike Mad Voltage pack, which is originally we thought was going to be called the Deja Vu pack. Has the silver Tiempo, which is somewhat reminiscent of obviously the earliest silver and Volt Mercurial. We have an all Volt Mercurial, and we have a Volt and White GX and Luna. Meh. That's where I'm at. LJ?
Tiempo's alright. The Tiempo's alright. The Mercurial's not bad either, but it's just kind of like, it's just fine. And the GXs I'm not a big fan of. I think maybe if they'd switched the Tiempo and the Mercurial around, maybe if we're talking about it was going to be Deja Vu, maybe if the Mercurial was in that color, I'd be a bit more. But in the end, it's just fine. Like, meh is fair, I think.
Yeah, I assume they couldn't get the chrome onto the grip net, which is why they didn't do it. Because surely that would be what you do. Like, even Nike aren't stupid enough to not do that. So I'm assuming they just couldn't get the chrome onto the grip net to make that happen. So they put it on the Tiempo instead.
The P something that they put on the Cosmic Speeds? Maybe
that could have worked, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't really dislike it, but there's nothing about it that really is jumping out at me either.
Yeah.
And that Air logo on the back of the Mercurial is really annoying me on this particular colorway. Like,
you said
I
that
quite
about the
like
last colorway though.
Probably it's probably just the Air logo, but I quite like an all Volt Mercurial. I think that's pretty cool, but the Air logo just interrupts it too much. I don't know. I'm clearly getting old. But yeah. Anyway, so meh for me, meh for LJ. Andrew, where are you going? Bad. Oh, bad. Are we going to take a 2-1 majority and put it in meh there?
Yeah, we'll put it in meh. But it's tiring to the point of being offensive.
Tiring to the point of being offensive. I love that. Oh dear.
Ashley, follow up synthetic or leather in X55. I'm playing mainly on AG. Just get the synthetic will be slightly more durable, but even the leather's still really durable. The upper is riveted to the sole plate, so you shouldn't have issues. There's more room in the toe box in the X55 versus the Alpha.
Yes, there you go. There you go. See, the man of all the knowledge. Okay, now
Sometimes.
with that out the way, now that I have managed to do that because I don't care, we will move on to the laceless boots and the discussion of the week, which is essentially, are laceless boots dead? So what I would like to do to start with is maybe put LJ on the spot a little bit. I know he wrote the article, but you know, you do forget things that you write. Do you have the ability or the memory to take us through a little bit of the history of kind of laceless boots, from obviously from wherever we begin up to now? As much as you remember from your article, I realize I'm absolutely putting you on the spot there.
I remember it wasn't that long ago, right? So I should remember some of it.
Let's go. Okay, give us some history, LJ. Give us some
Obviously,
laceless boot history.
I'm gonna say Zero Gravity was 2006.
Six.
Oh yes, I'm happy I got that. And obviously there's the Riot one, which I don't know the year of, and I'm not gonna pretend to know the year of. I'll probably put it into the article.
95.
I was gonna say mid-90s.
And I feel like most people say the Lotto is the first in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Me being the age that I am, it's the first I remember anyway. And I actually hadn't won a pair of those until the remake, and then I was like, wow, I can see why this didn't catch on. Then obviously there's the Ace, which is what year is that?
2016.
2016. Fine, and that was I guess it for a while, or the newer versions yearly, and then obviously there's the X joined it as a Laceless, and then those two are around for a while. Then obviously, now we have, I'd say we have, in terms of regular ones, Tequila, Solista, Predator, F50,
Copa.
What's that?
Oh, not right now. The Copa will be back again. It looks like.
But yeah, like the interesting thing for me that made me want to write the article is like that kind of to in and fro in, because obviously Copper went from having a laceless to not having a laceless last year, and obviously Copper, I missed that one out. Actually, Copper haven't had a laceless since 16, maybe.
No, Copa. The first Copa laceless was 18. The 18, and then the 19, right. 20, and then it was only this year that they got rid of the laceless.
So then that to me was obviously interesting, and obviously you have with the Crazy Fast where the plus was laced, and then the laceless became a 0.1, and it was like not forgotten, but like the thing that is always interesting for me is when you have like a plus one model where you just get the normal box and you don't get a bag and all of that.
Yeah.
So just that it's very clear like where a model sits when that happens. So then that was interesting to me, and what kind of prompted me to think, all right, maybe this is like an interesting thing to write about, where like the brand that seems to have put the most stakes in the technology has clearly kind of almost like relegated it. See, now we've seen players wearing prototypes of the new Copper that's going to then be this for which is going to be a laceless model, and in addition to that you have the F50, where obviously now we have the F50 Plus, which is like the top model for them that's laceless as well. So it's almost like they're not sure, what they're going to do with laceless in general. So it was interesting to me to kind of explore that and kind of wonder what motives might be for the to and fro in, and what might come at the end of this kind of like jostling almost.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as one of the points I had here to definitely talk about was how significant is that change from Adidas? How significant is the change from them dropping that away from the Plus model? And then is that in turn forcing, or not forcing, but prompting maybe Puma and New Balance to start stepping away from laceless? Puma don't really have anything at the moment that's not a takedown. And New Balance do have the laceless model, but it feels like they don't put much stock behind it. It really feels like they push the laced laced low Tequila so much more. So I thought that was kind of like an interesting thing. Is like, are Adidas almost killing their own market, which felt like the case till obviously we saw that the Copa could come back as a laceless model. So I don't know, Andrew, what are your thoughts on that? Like, in terms of
That's
where we're
interesting.
at with the industry and them dropping that laceless out of the top spot.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because, well, for one, like the current Copa Pure Plus, Pure 2 Plus has has laceless, but like Yui Hasegawa, who plays for Japan and Man City, took the laces out of hers.
Yeah.
And she ever since the Copa 18 Plus, she's worn laceless Copas. So I think there's still a want from certain athletes for that, certain players. But and Chris Potter also mentions the glitch was laceless, of course. And
Chris bringing up the glitch.
yeah,
Shock.
yeah, yeah. And as sure as the sun rises, I think I was thinking about this before live. Actually, not doing on the spot, coming up with stuff, but I was thinking about this before the live. I almost think even though like laceless kind of trends towards speed boots because it makes the boots look more sleek and stuff, I think they should just drop the laceless stuff from speed boots. I think it makes more sense for like a Predator or really more for a Copa, I think, just to like in terms of touch, in terms of that, single touch on the ball. The Predator makes less sense, but it seems to be popular enough. And I know there's enough players wearing the laceless F50s, but yeah, I think if you're getting a speed boot, you want more lockdown and you want as much grip as possible. So it almost doesn't make sense for me. Yeah, Yamal also has his bespoke F50 laceless. Yeah,
Like I thought that was really interesting actually. Again, everybody is all over my points before I even get to them. But Yamal and Vicky Lopez are both rocking the Messi F50s, but laceless, which is very interesting. That there's literally pros who are asking for bespoke laceless boots that aren't actually retail. So we've always had this impression that pros tend to move towards laced boots because there's so few of them that wear laceless. And then all of a sudden, we've got two big name pros in a big name boot that's really specified for just a few athletes going, oh no, actually, can I get these laceless?
Vicky Lopez? Was that her
Vicky
name?
Lopez, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
like that's why if we're to answer the question of the episode, it's going to be no, right? They're not dead, because it's like with something like that, it's
LJ. We've got like 40 minutes to go, man. You can't just do that.
it's going to be where there is going to be people are going to have their preferences, right? So like in that, this is something that's been around in the mainstream for so long. People will have tried it and would have liked it more, whether it be for me, it's aesthetics, you know what I mean? It looks nice. And obviously if it fits your foot, it feels nice too, you know? And it's like there's the kind of perceived extra bit of like convenience to it also, right? So there's always going to be people who like it, and in that there are going to be those that like it. Brands are going to continue to try and sell them and to keep them a thing anyway. But no, it's interesting that there are players who do prefer it. But again, going back to what we were saying, it is a minority.
But I think
I think
it's got
so
enough. Oh, sorry. I think it's got enough on-field presence with the right players that there's no way Adidas is just going to abandon it now. And I mean, on the one hand, I still want to see them develop the technology further. I personally think maybe not now, maybe not next year, the year after, but within the next 5 years, we won't have perfected laceless boots, but they will have gotten hell of a lot better when it comes to lockdown and responsiveness.
And I think that is what the thing is. So like even in the article, it was like I feel like if you imagine in your head the very best version of this thing as in a football boot, like perfect, as if the technology was completely unlimited, it probably wouldn't have laces, right? It'd be like like that shoe Back to the Future where you can just put it on and then it just zoop, and like that's what it would be. But the problem is that it's not there. So I think maybe the brands have realized a little bit, not realized, they probably would have known already. Maybe it's because consumers are cottoning on to the fact that it's not quite there, that they've decided, all right, cool, we're going to take this little step back. At the same time, continue to offer it for people who want it, but then take the step back from kind of heralding it as like the sort of the pinnacle, and then when you get to the point, if we do get to the point where it is good enough to be that top of the range again, then we'll see it brought back in a big way. Not brought back, but like, you know what I mean?
It's really it's so weird too, because like obviously the F50 Plus, they decided to go laceless, which, you know, across the board everybody agrees was a stupid idea, and whoever decided that needs a shake and a good talking to, like a serious like sit down conversation, like what the hell is wrong with you? But like the fact that they're still pushing it on there, you know, it's an interesting step. I understand it'll make it look sleeker and stuff, but like if you want for a boot to be ultra responsive and stuff, you want laceless, you want laces. But you know, it would have been nice to see like if they had done something with the F50 Plus upper down the middle to make it that bit tighter, and like, you know, maybe make them harder to get on. But the benefit of that is the lockdown is that much better.
It's a funny one as well, because I think I mentioned that because this day I was writing that I saw a post where one of the designers I guess was showing the prototypes version, and some of the prototypes did have laces. So the decision to then have them without is more again about that perception of something being futuristic. You know what I mean? It's like we're making this boot which we're kind of pushing as being sort of the best version of our current technology. So it's like, can we really make it have laces? Maybe we don't. It's like, the way I think of it, it's a funny one. Like, bear with me with this analogy. I already mentioned Back to the Future as well. It's like a period of time, sort of 80s and 90s, where every film that you watched that was based on the future had flying cars, right? So you have like Blade Runner, which the first Blade Runner was just set in 20, right, and has flying cars, right? I was in 2019, cars weren't flying. You know what I mean? Even then, you have, and the interesting thing, you have Blade Runner 2049, which is releases in 2019, at the time where we've realized as a society that from a practicality standpoint and from even like a usability, it doesn't make sense to have flying cars. We don't need them. That's why we don't have them. But then 2049 comes out in 2019, and guess what? The cars fly. You know what I mean? Even when we're in the moment when we know that this thing which you've kind of put forward as this like really nice kind of next step for this bit of technology maybe doesn't make sense, we're still saying, okay, maybe in 30 years it might, you know? And I think it's a bit like that, where it's like the idea at the beginning is that, all right, cool, the next step for this thing, this shoe or this type of performance shoe is for it to not have laces. You have it without laces, and then you kind of realize that maybe, not that it doesn't work, but it doesn't work as well at this moment as this piece of string that you've put through holes in it. But then again, when you look forward again a little bit, you're like, all right, cool, maybe in 10 years. And maybe in 10 years, right? And again, maybe you have flying cars, but probably not, because we don't need it, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting point about not needing it. Because like we don't it's not like somebody's gonna come out tomorrow and be like, all right, all laceless or all laced boots are gone. Nobody's gonna do that. I know you can't probably talk about it much, but it is interesting. It should be pointed out that the future prototypes that you tested when you were in Germany with Puma, those didn't have laces. So
yeah, I can talk about that a bit, to be fair, because they were happier for that to be discussed and to be shown, and that was interesting because with this current future, obviously it's not been around for ages. And I don't think we've seen one of the laceless limited edition features for a couple of generations now. It's been a while. There was a while when you'd have one now and again, and there hasn't been one for a bit. So I was kind of surprised to see that, because I think they were saying the concepts were like 2027 kind of. So I even asked, I was like, does that mean that the future is going to be laceless? And they were just kind of like, you know, kind of like shrugging, kind of little like
maybe.
Yeah. But then it was like, that's the perfect point to make, because it's like, it's still a thing where it's like, when we look into the future, maybe we can, you know, maybe that's what it's going to be. And I was telling also obviously that the future was laceless, but the Ultra wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of goes back to my point about like speed boots shouldn't necessarily be laceless, but other boots can be, or maybe should be. If you're looking for a boot with like the perfect all-around touch and everything, you don't want anything getting in the way, laceless boots make sense in that retrospect, or in that retrospect. So
Yeah, that's very true, and I think that we're talking obviously. We've LJ's ruined the question. We're saying that the laceless boots aren't dead, but we're now looking further ahead than that, and obviously where do laceless boots fit in? And I think we have to remember, admittedly, it's taken a long time, but what are we like? We're 9 years on, pretty much nearly from the Ace now, and in that time period, admittedly, it's been slow progress. We have made progress. Like the Ace in terms of laceless to where we are now is vastly different. Like vastly different. Even the progress I'd say we've made since maybe the Predator 2018 comes back to now. The progress has actually been quite significant, and we now have laceless boots where previously my viewpoint might have been like, over my dead body, am I actually going to go out and wear a laceless boot? It's not happening. Like I'll test them, but I am not taking one into a game. There is no hope. Whereas the speed flow is the one I will always go to. Like the speed flow, if you gave me a laceless speed flow, I'd be like, cool, I can wear that. Like that. There it is. Look at that.
Still have mine.
What a boot.
Well,
what
I feel
a
like
boot.
the speed flow is such an exception.
Yeah. But like, even so, like the current Pred is all right. The current F50 is all right.
What's up, LJ?
Why does it have to be though? I mean, it is, but it's like it exists. So why can't they just make ones that are as good as that again? You know?
How dare you look back at the past for ideas about the future? Who would do? Oh, Adidas does that all the time. Anyways, yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't you just the lacing system? Like, obviously, there's still a bit of heel slippage on this, but they made this bit is so it's like it's still stretchy, but it is so much tighter than like the current laces at 50s. They were onto something with this, and they're just like, let's throw it all away. It doesn't make sense.
So weird.
Like
it also.
I would argue if this was on the current F50 Plus, it still wouldn't be as good as it needs to be in terms of lockdown, but it'd be a lot better.
Yeah, and like I'm going to take a shot at the Puma Future here because I just love doing that at the moment. But the power tape on the Puma Future is stiff, uncomfortable, means that getting your foot in the boot is difficult, and I really don't like the feeling overall. And yet somehow Adidas managed to do a similar thing with a laceless boot better than Puma have done it with a laced boot. Like, and it's like, how difficult can it be? Even if you look at somebody mentioned in the chat the Lotto Solista, the Gravity, which again has been out for 6 years now, 5 years at least. All they did was put a power tape type design down the front, but it was flexible enough that it actually provided a reasonable amount of lockdown. Now that boot is definitely feeling dated now, but around that time, like that was Adidas Predator 18-19 kind of range. That was the better laceless option. Like it was better than both of those Predators when it came to lockdown. And I think that brands really need to look at, it's kind of what LJ is saying, look at what works and stop dicking around with it just for the sake of it being new and being like, oh, let's do this and let's do this. You haven't perfected the technology to be able to mess around with it and do this, that, and the other. You actually have to perfect the technology first before you mess around with it and try and sell it. Basically, this isn't something you can just use as a marketing tool because it just doesn't work yet. And people are, like, I think LJ is right as well, people are turning away from it due to a lack of performance. And if you can't improve that performance, admittedly it's taken people 8 years to get to that point, but if you can't like
Never said we were quick learners, buddy.
yeah. Like if you can't get to that point, then it's not going to work anyway. The performance needs to be fixed first. And yeah, I do think we are getting there slowly. But when you take 5 steps forward with the speed flow and then 6 steps back, it's not exactly ideal. Something else I definitely wanted to bring up, actually, I think it's interesting that Yamal and Vicky Lopez are the two that have gone for the Laceless F50. Both of them are under 18 years of age, or 18 years or under. And I think that there is a massive element of laceless boots and I've been told this by people who work at Adidas, laceless boots are hugely dominated by a younger demographic. Like a young demographic of people are the people that want laceless boots. I'm not calling like younger people stupid, but they haven't had the time to learn yet. No. But I wonder if we are now reaching a point where, like I say, oh my God, right, I'm about to feel old. So when the Ace released, Yamal was like 9 years old.
Oh my God.
It's a dagger to the heart.
Holy shit, man.
So he's grown up with most of his time playing football with laceless boots as an option, and also laceless boots maybe being the coolest thing. Like whether they're good or not, they are cool. So he's now reached an age where he's playing and he still wants to wear laceless boots, and he's used to that. So maybe we do have a whole generation of kids who've grown up with laceless boots who are now reaching boot buying age. They're going to go out and drop their own money on laceless boots, and they're going to go, oh, laceless.
Still laceless,
like,
yeah.
They're still, I want to get laceless. So have Adidas particularly managed to, over the space of nearly 10 years, create themselves a market that is now entering the point where they can buy boots, where they've got their own money and they're going to go and spend them on Adidas laceless boots. That wasn't a point I wrote down, but it came to me during the podcast. Oh my God.
That's very
if anybody has
much
any thoughts, I'm very pleased with myself with that. Like, please do let me know.
It certainly wasn't a long-term plan of theirs, I don't think, but it's become a long-term plan now. Like, it's made sense. They've gotten into the culture so much that when you think laceless boots, you think Adidas. So it's like people will just get Adi boots now automatically, or look towards Adi first. Maybe then from there look on other brands, and this is where smaller brands can get a leg up. Is like, oh, we offer laceless boots too, so people might be interested. But for Adi, they very much. I mean, it's a unique selling point, and it's something Nike doesn't have. So, Nike can say all they want about how, performance is better with lace boots, which it is, but they don't have anything to compete against this. And I don't know what percentage, I mean, I'm not in stores anymore, so I don't know what percentage of the market Nike is losing to that, but it can't be insignificant at this point. And we're coming on to 10 years from the Ace, the original Ace Pure Control. At some point, like, somebody at Adi can look back and go, yeah, that was a pretty good decision on our part.
For sure. Now, I suppose over two is one or the other, I suppose, 50-50 for you, LJ. Do you think that, which one of these do you think is more true, or what are your thoughts? Do you think Nike not entering the laceless boot market is significant in terms of damaging the laceless boot market? Because Nike have not endorsed it. They've basically gone, this is like not something you should go out and buy by not releasing their own laceless boots. Or do you think that by Nike not entering the laceless market, they've done more damage to themselves? I think there's two kind of points there. What would you think?
Right. So in terms of the second one, in terms of damage they've done to themselves, I'd need to think on that. The first question, in terms of damaging laceless, absolutely not. I don't think that's even a thing. Because I feel like if we're talking about people who are buying football boots and who are considering laceless, I would be very skeptical as to whether it'd be a thing for anyone to be like, is there a reason why Nike don't make these and then not buy it as a result? I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe someone like you or I who like are super into football boots, maybe that could possibly enter our mind. But for a general consumer, I don't think Nike. Obviously, they're the market leader. I don't think they have that level of power. People are going to be like, the fact that Nike aren't doing this one thing means that I might not get it or go for it, even though I'd like it. I don't think that's the thing. In terms of damaging themselves, in the sense of there being a popular option that they don't offer, yes. Because obviously, let's say if tomorrow Nike came out with a Laceless GX or something, it would sell and it would take a piece of the pie away from the Adidas Laceless boots and whoever else Laceless boots. So in that sense, yes. But at the same time, it's like, no, yeah, because in the end, like if you are somebody who has decided, of which there are many, that is something that you want, a boot without laces, then you don't go for Nike. I've seen people who wear their materials with the laces taken out and whatever else and stuff, and there were the couple of the Phantoms, the Vision that had the laceless look, as the Ghost cover, or whatever they call it, Ghost lace, whatever they call it. So yeah, I'd say much more the second question in terms of it, not so much damaging. Damaging feels like almost like quite a loaded word to use, but I guess in the sense that there's a market they're not a part of the market they're not exploiting, then yeah, I think that's probably the right word to use. Like again, I don't think that they've damaged laceless boots by not entering it at all. I don't think that's the thing, really. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah. I agree.
I think
ahead,
that
James.
Nike have done some damage to the laceless boot market. I think Nike do hold enough sway to convince people that laceless boots aren't a good option, and the reason they're not a good option is like Nike approving they're not a good option by not making them. I genuinely think laceless boots have less credibility because Nike don't make them. And I think there's enough people in the market, we've spoken about this on previous podcasts, that would be diehard, kind of like Nike or Adidas or whatever, who would then take that information on board and be like, oh, Nike don't make laceless, lace must therefore be bad. And then that kind of becomes more of a thing. Now, it's obviously not like a strong narrative, but I genuinely think that Nike not entering the market does. I think Nike not, because they're so big and because they're Nike, I think Nike not entering any market in terms of football boots is a statement that market is not worth the time. And I think that can apply to anything. In terms of what they do with football boots, I think they are that big and they have that much influence over how people think about products and boots and things like that. Just look at how they do lead things. You know, they when they introduce something, people follow. So by my logic, the reverse also applies, but with less of an impact.
Sure, makes sense. What I would say is that thought process, I think, requires a level of scrutiny that the majority of consumers don't necessarily like. They don't go with, if you know what I mean. In terms, like, I guess a lot of it would be subconscious, obviously.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at, is this subconscious, like, that Nike haven't endorsed it. I'm not saying people are actively thinking that outside of, like, you know, people like us. But yeah, I have a feeling that, like, just it's in there somewhere. You know, like that they've never seen Nike with a laceless boot, and Nike are the market leaders, and therefore, can I really trust a laceless boot? You know, something along those lines. Just like a thought process that kind of moves people away. I think that's probably had more damage than me slamming laceless boots for the last 6 years has.
Well, Footloose Boots points out that they do have them for kids versions, which I completely forgot about.
Do they?
Yeah, they make kids laceless. They've got a Merc. I think they've got I think they might have a Phantom as well. I can't remember. But yeah,
laceless?
Yeah, laceless.
Hold on a second. Everybody keep talking amongst yourselves. I'm going to have to look this up.
Yeah.
Like, I obviously don't spend a lot of time looking at laceless boots. You know what? Honestly, sorry, kids' boots. I actually think I do now remember a laceless Superfly.
Yeah.
Like it's got this really awful kind of piece of material down the middle. I don't think I'm imagining that.
I think. Oh, go ahead, LJ.
No, I'm saying I'm looking at the laceless ones now.
Everyone's just on the Nike. Hold the podcast for a second while we all just jump on the Nike website.
Yeah, Ricky makes a good point. Kids' laces are purely convenience, I think. They can't tie their laces.
Yeah, for anybody wondering, there is the Superfly, kids Superfly laceless, which like it probably is convenience, but it is interesting that they do at least make it available on kids.
And then also Puma do it for takedowns.
Yeah,
So
Puma, the match takedowns have it, don't they?
Yeah, the matches.
Yeah, so when we get to like high performance is when people start saying.
Yeah. Do you think at Nike, if they feel like internally, like if they did a laceless boot, because I'm 100% sure they've done mock-ups and stuff.
Oh, they would have, no
question.
But do you think at this point, if Nike decide to do a laceless boot, it would kind of be, they feel like they'd be admitting defeat?
100%. 100%. That like there's almost like there would have to be such a market shift towards laceless boots being the most popular thing ever for Nike to consider dropping a performance laceless boot, because they would see, it's admitting defeat, it's admitting that maybe Adidas were right, and it's being late to the party, and Nike hate that.
Super late as well. Not even a little bit now. We're talking about almost a decade.
Yeah, we're a decade late to the party. And Nike hate that. They are big on, we are innovators, we are market leaders, we are the future, and then to be like, yeah, all right, here's a laceless boot. Like,
but the thing is, like, I guess more for us than your average boot consumer, but like there have been a lot of times where, like, I bring up that quote in the past, like where we had a Nike sales rep look at the Adidas catalog and was like, man, I wish Adidas would do their own stuff, but it's like Nike is like the king of taking other people's stuff and then just perfecting it. They do exactly the same. I don't think Apple perfects anything, but they do the same thing as Apple. They just take other stuff, repackage and rebrand it, and then say it's a new thing. Nike's been doing that for years. So, like, I guess with having the boots be laceless, it's really obvious, rather than some various other things they've tried and failed at, or tried and just it hasn't come off.
Yeah, it's not like a small thing. Like I'm not saying they got this from these places, but I've made the point a couple of times with obviously Lotto and things that Lotto have done first that maybe not quite got right, such as the cutout in the heel, and then all of a sudden, literally 3-4 years later, Nike have a cutout in the heel of their boot, which is excellent, far better than what Lotto did on the Maestro, but it certainly wasn't Nike's idea. And I'm not saying that's where they got it from, but it's remarkably similar idea, and they have absolutely perfected it. But because Lotto is it's a small thing, and Lotto is a more insignificant company when it comes to boots, that Nike can be like, hey, look at this thing we did. Nobody else has ever done this. Nobody else has ever done this. Yeah. This is a completely original idea.
Justin saying the original vision was laceless? No, it wasn't laceless. It just had the lace cover.
Yeah, lace cover, not laceless.
Yeah. It wasn't laceless.
Which I think that was Nike's answer, was lace covers.
Yeah.
Sorry, LJ, what were you saying?
Yeah, I said in the end, brands are going to do that, right? I was going to say borrow. We're talking about stealing from each other. Like, if you do something that's really, really good and we can do it, then for Nike to move into laceless, I think they'd have to get to a point where, obviously we're talking about it being like a massive market show. If they were to stumble across the perfect way to make a laceless boot, then I guess they would. But for the time being, that doesn't really, I can say I'm not in the technology, I'm not a designer, I don't know, maybe it does exist, but for the time being, it seems as though that's not really something that's on the horizon. So, yeah,
you would need something that was like you're Back to the Future kind of like, that something kind of tech where they'd be like, hey, look what we can do, rather than layers of stretchy and non-stretchy material, which is essentially all that a laceless boot ever really is a stretchy material backed by a less stretchy material. As much as anybody tries, that's all it really is. Which, you know, I say that like mocking it as if laces are some kind of technological innovation, but but you know, if it works, if it ain't broke, you know, don't fix it, etc.
Okay. Justin was saying it was originally laceless in test pairs. They didn't like it, and that's why they changed it to ghost.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Justin's right. In test pairs, they were laceless, and well, the Nike story is that is kind of like the Nike story that players didn't like laceless. Now, I don't know if they ever actually made these laceless boots or anything, but the Nike story was with the vision that players prefer laces, so we put laces in the boot. Like I say, I've never seen the laceless concepts of vision or anything like that, but Nike did say at the time the reason that they've gone for the lace cover and it has laces, I think this was an attempt to undermine Adidas more than anything else, was to say pro players want laces. Like, this is what pro players want. This is the best technology, and we have achieved it with laces, as opposed to anything else. So Justin's right. That was definitely what Nike said. I don't know if there was actually any laceless concepts drawn up. There could have been.
Nike has this thing of saying, like, you know, this is actually what players want. Whereas you just even to take a quick glance at like almost any random program and be like, that's obviously not true. They make these big grandiose statements about what players want and then seem to ignore what players want.
I just had to laugh for a second there. I was paying attention to what you said, but Chris Pottle just commented, it's like they should make some sort of laceless modular boot.
Design
glitch reference.
Designers are obsessed with modularity, and it'll come back at some point.
Yeah,
you know, give it a few years, and they'll have a new modular boot of some sort. Nike has a patent for modular boots as well, not in the same way as the Tunic, but they do have a patent for stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Like they I think that's something where they'd be happy to jump on board with it. Like a modular, for example, it's not necessarily originally theirs. It's been done by Adidas before, but it's gone away. It's been away for long enough. They can jump on it and be like, hey, look, we've perfected this or whatever. I think that would be absolutely fair enough. Well, I am still looking at the chat here. So if anybody does have questions, please do leave them in the chat, which we will definitely get to. Footloose Boots said here, look at Lotto Boots. Nike took those techs for the Sleester and the Maestro. Yes, thank you, Footloose Boots, for absolutely backing up my point there. Justin says, I was a huge fan of laceless boots until the pred accuracy, and then how sloppy the F50 Plus was. Too sloppy overall, but I do tend to like the laceless concept overall. And welcome to Boot Maniac. Welcome to Julio, who has just joined us. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna have to review some more laceless boots now, aren't I?
The thing is, I like the concept, you know.
Yeah, me too.
But for me, it's like my entry into like boot collecting it was purely from like an aesthetic standpoint, you know. I used to like what I thought looked good and what was new, what was interesting. I'm kind of like drawn to it. So laceless was always something that I was going to be interested in for that reason. And obviously, like, if we're talking about, say, a kickabout, obviously you want your boots to perform to the best of their ability or to the best ability of a football boot. But it's like, no one's going to die. You know what I mean? So I don't mind a pair of they look good and they'll do a good enough job. And like we say, over time it's got better. So if you look at the current Tequila, I'd say probably is the best laceless boot around right now. It does as good a job as I could imagine a boot without laces can do lockdown wise. It's really good, you know. And for certain foot types, maybe it feel almost as good as wearing a boot with laces, and the difference would be marginal enough that if you preferred the look of it, you'd go with that, right? So in that sense, it's like I'm glad. I wouldn't want them to disappear from the market. You know what I mean? Like even now where we have the Predator of the Tongue, which is the one which I've got a lot of models of. There's some colorways I'm like, all right, I kind of want I want the latest one too. You know what I mean? Because they look cool. You know what I mean? We forget. We talk about it as like collectors and people who review. We talk about things from this kind of performance standpoint because it's ultimately the most important thing of a performance shoe. But the aesthetic part is massive, and I think that's probably it's probably largely why the demographic that we're saying leans towards laceless boots is the one that leads towards it, like kids, because it's like it looks cool, it looks fast, so it's like let's wear it. And then if you're a Yamal or Vicky Lopez, where you could probably get them to modify it to the point where it does perform that little bit better, it's not surprising that they're still going with it.
Yeah, that's true. Like, and I think this ties into something obviously Andrew and I have mentioned many times, is that hopefully the advancement in football boots, the next big thing we see is custom fit. Because if you do a custom fit and a laceless boot, you've got a huge advantage there in terms of it's laceless and it fits my foot perfectly, because some of the problems with obviously a lack of adjustability without laces. So that would be massive. But interesting thing that you just brought up there. Firstly, so my nephew, he's like 11 years old. He plays at like a good level for his age. He won't wear anything that doesn't have a dynamic fit collar. It's looks. It's nothing more than that. Like I get him boots all the time. I have to get him boots with a dynamic fit collar. But my point was, you brought up the Pred FT. I think this is an excellent point to bring up at this point, because we have been essentially ragging on laceless boots for a lack of performance. The Pred FT is absolutely selling like gangbusters, right? The Pred FT is not as good a boot performance-wise as the Pred Elite without the tongue.
Yep.
And the way that you wear it with the tongue, or where a lot of people wear it, your Trev Dumfries of the world, your Justins of the world, where you're taking out that top lace hole in order to get the Beckham look, pulling the tongue all the way down, like that. You're immediate.
It looks nice.
Right. So this, I hadn't thought of this. You've just brought it up. I have literally sat here for nearly an hour and ragged on laceless boots because I don't like them because the performance isn't good enough. I have never once criticized a single person for going out, buying a tongue Predator, pulling the tongue all the way down and sacrificing a ton of heel lockdown because they don't get locked into the boot properly. It's the same thing. The reason you don't
do that is because so many people would rag on you for having that opinion.
I would be cancelled in modern speak. But that, I think that's an interesting point. The comparison that like a tongue is fine despite the fact that it affects performance negatively, and the way you wear the boots, you are actively making your boots worse with the way a lot of people wear them. Whereas I'm like, laceless boots are, put them in the bin, and you're probably better off with a laceless boot than a tongue boot that's missing a lace hole at the top.
It's like the equal opposite, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
And because it's not only is it aesthetics, but it's a very specific type of aesthetic. It's not that it looks better; it's that it's what this player used to do. Because all the time, it wasn't just like when everyone was wearing them. I think Del Piero didn't wear his tongue like that. You know what I mean? And it's like me
posers. You're all posers.
Yeah. Like David Beckham, I was like, I want my boot like David Beckham. You know what I mean? And no one can stop me. So it's like, I'm gonna do it. And again, like we're saying, we're talking about these things when we're criticizing laceless, and criticizing the criticism for the tongue version also is we're talking about from a performance standpoint. But in the end, a lot of the time, to an extent, we're talking about quite marginal gains. You know what I mean? So it's like where the gains are marginal. If you gain style points in your mind, as opposed to like this tiny little bit of loss in terms of performance, I think you've got what looks better. Otherwise, people wouldn't be going and sticking almost exclusively with Nike and Adidas boots, right? If it was just about what was good and what performed well, it's like
look
good, feel good, play good.
Exactly.
Yeah, the game is as much mental as anything else too. There was a great comment earlier. I'm trying to see who said it. Okay.
I was going to say the comments kind of popped off with that kind of take on the FT Preds. I'll while you find that, Andrew, I will mention so Chris's Footy Kicks here says he disagrees. You can get great lockdown in the FT and have the tongue all the way down. He's done the runner's loop with them. I agree, Chris, but what actually happens is people take out the top. This is what I'm talking about, taking out the top lace hole, which is what a lot of people do, and then pull the tongue down because it is the full Beckham. So I agree, you can get great lockdown and put the runner's loop in, everything like that, and still pull your tongue down. It's just not what is. It's not necessarily what I'm talking about. And for all of you mentioning zipper boots, just stop now.
Well, and the zipper boots had a little thing underneath to tighten them up.
Mm?
So they technically had laces. Okay, Proper Boots asks, if Nike were to go laceless, which model would you recommend they start with? Justin said out of the three they have currently the Tiempo. I also say the Tiempo because, I mean, they've already messed it up bad enough as it is. They can hardly make it worse.
I can't. Yeah, I couldn't see them doing it on the Mercurial. Mercurial is their performance product. Like that's their this is the top end performance. I couldn't see them doing it with that.
That's right, Justin. The boa.
Like I see the logic with the Tiempo. They've already messed it up so badly that hey, screw, throw something else on there. But I feel like again, the Tiempo in their head is this heritage product that they wouldn't put a laceless system on. So I feel like you'd be more likely to get it on the Phantom.
I think that's where it would be. Whether that's the best place, I don't know. I think it would be the Phantom though. I'm trying to visualize a laceless Tiempo in my head. I can't see it.
Do you know what I'm visualizing? It's really weird. I'm visualizing the Puma King match, and just the way that is done, because it's really badly done. So that's just why that's what's in my head. Is essentially I've taken the centerpiece of a match and just stuck it in a Tiempo, and it's bad. I can tell that much.
Again, I am firmly of the belief that Nike is fully intending to kill the Tiempo.
I believe they've already done it, have they not?
Just stop making them.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I think at this point it makes sense, surely.
Replace it with something, I guess. You mean?
Yeah. Replace it with something else.
Or, I mean, in my view, don't.
Yeah, I would agree, don't, but they will. Okay, what have we got in the chat here? So basically style over function. That does, kind of. That's kind of where we've landed right now.
Honestly, that's what it is. At the end of the day, in the end, it's marginal. Where it's you want, once you get to a certain level of function, then you start choosing style. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like you said. It functions well enough for the gains to be marginal, so therefore I can afford to sacrifice something in order to look better, which will make me feel better. So therefore, in my head, I play better.
Exactly.
Have we just decided there's a mental advantage to wearing laceless boots?
For some people, I'm sure.
Yeah, for some people, definitely.
For those who believe that they look better than everything else, then perhaps. My brother, for example, my older brother, he says he's never gone back to wearing laces. It's so funny because I think it was a pair that I gave him. It was the Solistas actually. Okay. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm not wearing laces ever again. I'm just not doing it."
And you don't even get the advantage of those being easy to get on because they're an arse to get on. Those are so hard to get on.
He's moved on to other laceless pairs since those. But he's of the mind now where he's not wearing any laces ever again.
He is a laceless convert.
He is big time.
I will say I wore the original Zero Gravities for about 1.5 years. Yeah, and I never thought I was going to go back afterwards.
Really?
Yeah, I love them.
Although Andrew and I are the only people in the world who like these boots.
If you had a particular foot shape, what they did with that, I think what they did with that boot is far more revolutionary than people realize. But if you had a certain foot shape, they were just perfect. They were just about perfect. This is the crazy thing. The lockdown on those is so much better than a lot of the current laceless boots. It is really silly.
Yeah. I once made a video, this will have been 3 years ago, I think, maybe 4 years ago now.
Go find it. Go find it.
Please don't go find it, people. But the title is the thumbnail. At least I remember the thumbnail perfectly. The thumbnail is purple, and it says right in the middle, "The best laceless boots ever made," and it's an entire video about these. And I filmed it when I first moved to Ireland from Denmark, and it's literally, I had nowhere to film, so it's filmed out in the middle of Ireland in like various different places. I'm literally down in a riverbed at one point, just like filming it, because I was like, screw it, if I've got nowhere to actually go and film. I didn't have a car, so I couldn't go to a pitch. I was staying at my in-laws' house because we were waiting to move into our house, and literally I just went out into the Irish countryside and found places where there weren't people and filmed this video on the lotto, on those lottos, which are, and like I say, I literally called them the best laceless boots ever made. This was a few years ago. This was pre Speed Flow, but I still adore these. These are great football boots. It's a great sole plate, actually.
Exactly, that's the thing. Like, I think that sole plate's one of the best sole plates anybody's come up with.
Yeah, really, really good. So there you go, people. Go out and buy some. Some Lotto laceless boots from 2006. That's your answer to the laceless conundrum. Just buy boots from 2006 and you'll be happy.
Surely there will be no downsides.
The thing is, what Andrew said is important as well, because he said if you have a certain foot shape, they're all perfect. Therein lies the problem with laceless boots.
Very important.
Lucky in the sense that I feel like most laceless pairs that I try, like for whatever reason, they work for me, and I don't feel as much of the downside as other people do. But I guess it's the sense that, like, from boot to boot, it either works or it doesn't. That doesn't really work. Do you know what I mean? Or what, you know what I mean? There needs to be, for a boot to have that kind of general appeal, it needs to have that level of like adjustability that you get with laces in a boot, to be honest. But we say, if not, actually no, we're not about to finish. I'm not going to say. I mean, I guess I answered earlier, didn't I?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's
not
fine.
there at a different point in their life, you know.
Yeah. It's interesting you say about foot type. I just like a question, considering you've got a review coming up. So obviously the CLRs, right? So I think this has laces. I think this is a quite a good takedown model in some respects, especially with the upper. But I think that the volume and shape of the upper makes this a boot where if you don't have a foot type that fills this out, it's like there's kind of like odd bulges and weird spots if your foot does not fill out this boot. And obviously laceless boots are only going to massively exacerbate that problem. But I was wondering if you found the same thing with the CLR. I hope so, because it's in my review.
My foot is too slim and is for that boot, really, because like even before I start running, to move my foot around a bit around the opening, I get like gaps, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
And then obviously, like you say, you can feel, especially like around the top of your foot, that there is just so much, almost like dead space. And it's like, if I had like if there was more volume to my foot, it might be perfect. But there isn't, so it wasn't, and it was like.
Yeah, and that's a laced boot, like so something you can't adjust at all. Like it's going to be obviously even more important. Also, something interesting. I do mention this. You're getting a sneak preview if you're in the chat right now, because I mentioned this in my review, and no other reviewer has mentioned this, as far as I'm aware. And I don't know how nobody else has mentioned this. Kipster's sizing on the CLR is the half sizes only correspond to volume and width. So if you buy a 7 and a 7.5, they are the same length, but the 7.5 has more width and more volume.
Interesting.
And nobody else has pointed this out yet. And I'm like, and this has been like, loads of people have been doing reviews on these, and I'm like, how has nobody else noticed this? But yeah, I think that's really interesting, and that's going to affect some people massively.
It will. So I tried initially my normal size 8, I think it was, and the length was what, it was too long. And with a 7.5, the length was fine. So I don't know if that's like only to a point.
Well, no, because it works 7 to 7.5. So 7 and 7.5 are going to be the same length but different widths. 8 and 8.5 are the same length but different width. So realistically, if you've got way too much volume and a 7.5 fits you lengthwise, you can probably wear a 7 and get less volume.
I didn't even know that. So
most people apparently do not.
I didn't even know.
There you go.
So interesting.
The wizard does his research.
Hmm.
And if anybody is wondering, just go and look on the website. It says I literally copied and pasted the website into my review because I was like, so many people are going to question this, whether it's logical or not. I copied and pasted the website into my review, exactly what they say, which is quite literally that. But yeah, anyway, we are way off topic right now. But I just thought that was incredibly interesting.
We do what we want.
It's our podcast. We do what we want, and if you don't like it, then get your own podcast.
Get your own podcast.
The chat is definitely having its own conversation right now, which I have completely missed. Something about tiempos and Kangalite has kicked off. I don't really know what's going on.
The elite was completely kangaroo leather. There was no Kangalite in the Tiempo 4. The Tiempo 3 elite was Kangalite, but the regular one was kangaroo leather. And Justin points out that the current Tiempo's upper is seen like as an evolution of Kangalite, which I mean, Nike can say that all they want. It's not.
They'll tell you that.
Nike says a lot of things. I mean, most of these companies say a lot of things, and half of it is it's just.
So anyway, if you have any more questions, please pop them down in the chat. And I think we have essentially decided that laceless boots are not dead. They have a place in the market. And if anything, I've come out of this entire conversation more pro laceless boots than I was when I went into it.
Yeah.
I've
I'm
convinced
now looking
myself
at my next few reviews. Like, I guess I need to add some laceless boots in there.
LJ, what have you done to us, man?
I mean, I didn't do anything. I just said, I was like, yeah, they're all right. And then you guys were like, yeah, they're all right, actually.
Adler's not going to do laceless boots.
That's not happening. So hold on a second. Let me, Andrew, please tell the good people about maybe a wonderful Yatagarashi or something, because I just want to grab something from the internet.
I didn't bring it with me today.
What?
I know, right?
What? The one day I need you.
I know. I was super sleepy this morning. So that's what I was snacking on. This is an energy pack I had before we went live.
I did see you drinking that. Anybody who is in the chat right now, there is 25 of you. So firstly, please like this video, get subscribed to the channel if you're not already. And secondly, I have just put into the chat LJ's article. So
nice.
If we could all grab the article, drop it into your browser, just save it for later. I've just pinned it to the top of the chat there. And if you can, obviously, check it out, give it a good read, give it a share.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good article.
Yeah, it's a really great article. It's what this whole podcast episode was based on. Something that LJ covers very succinctly in like a few paragraphs, and we've unpicked for like an hour for no reason.
Never say something in one sentence you could say in like a paragraph or two.
Yeah, so please go and check that out, watch it, and read it and share it, and see if we can give like a nice big boost so that 442 can look at it and be like, man, this guy's articles get so many views. We should get him to write loads more stuff.
Right.
Like, so let's give LJ the big shout out for that one, please.
Yeah, guys.
You're very welcome. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to our laceless boot debate, or anything else for today, or is that us done?
Let's say best one ever, Speedflow. Is that what we're saying?
I'm saying Speedflow.
Speedflow. As much as I love the zero gravity, I mean this boot is just, it's special.
Yeah.
It
It's
is.
very special.
The only problem with the laceless speed flow is that the laced one is still better.
Yeah. But the one thing the laceless speedflow has over the laced is the way the upper was designed.
Yep.
The laced
I agree.
speedflow was just a bit too slick in wet weather for me.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely. That was nice as well. Like, I preferred it when they were doing laceless boots that were definitively different. Like, it wasn't just like had laces, didn't have laces.
Yep.
It was a definitively different boot where it felt like you were getting you were getting less, but you were also getting more. You know, so I think that was
Right.
important.
An actual trade-off, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, a genuine trade-off, which somewhat maybe justified the increase in price, which obviously isn't there anymore. So I think with that, we will call the podcast a day.
Yeah.
Obviously, do get subscribed to the Boot Wizard YouTube channel. You find me on Instagram at Boot Wizard Boot Reviews. LJ, where can the people find you aside from on your lovely 442 article?
You can find me on Insta, TikTok, YouTube. All of them are just at LJ Collects. So
Boom.
take a look. Let me know what you think. Feedback, even on the article. Let me know if anything I said you don't like. Obviously, it's always good to have like debates and discussions around these things.
It is. It absolutely is. And Andrew, would you like to give the people the very detailed description of where they may find you as we find each week?
Lockhart Boot Blog everywhere.
Lockhart Boot Blog everywhere. And Dibs, I will not be sending my DS Lite X55 to Nike for them to reverse engineer. They can sort their own crap out. But that is it. Thank you very much all for joining us. Read LJ's article. Please like this video, get subscribed. And if you are watching this on the catch up, please leave your thoughts down in the comments below. We appreciate you all for joining us every single week. We will be back next week, if the post is in order, with a very interesting episode. It might get delayed, so I won't reveal what it is.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and we will catch you all next week.
See you.